The Ward Scott Files is produced by Ward Scott Files, LLC.
Come on, everybody! Come on, everybody!
This is a Ward Scott Files advisory. The Ward Scott Files radio show may contain material not suited for people who are easily offended. Trust us on this. This show contains adult information and opinions. Please protect small children, sensitive pets, fragile houseplants, and liberal relatives. Thank you.
Good morning, good morning. Here we are in Warthog Man Cave. Professor Ward Scott, also Coach Hog, and also the Warthog. So here we are. And it's Friday, by golly. We got another Friday going on, and that's always a good thing. So we're almost here at the end of the month of March. And month of March has been, well, it's come in like a lion. It's going out like a lion. It hasn't treated us very nicely around here in the north central Florida parts. But it's been worse elsewhere in the nation. If you're listening to us across the country, why? Hopefully, you know, spring has actually sprung, and you just can't even tell it here in our parts too much, although there has been an abundance of pollen, by the way. Oh, it's got a lot of people down, you know, with that pollen deal. Well, we're going to have to cover a couple of things today that are just, you know, I'm going to get into. I have to have a Smollett continued section here because the beat goes on, and we need to do a little follow-up on this thing. And one of the most interesting things I discovered, good morning, Don. One of the most interesting things I discovered over the nightfall and the rising of the sun again was the Illinois Prosecutors Bar Association, according to Joe Pollock, has condemned the Cook County State Attorney Kim Foxx, whom we've been keeping you informed on here, as the lady who, for some reason known only to her probably, decided to hide all the things that Smollett did. And we do know that that probably came on advice from Obama himself through Michelle, down through this Chen woman, who was Michelle's handmaiden attorney, and on and on and on. And in thinking about it yesterday a little bit, as I thought more about it, I really do think that police chief in Chicago anticipated this might happen, because Chicago police have a history with this Fox woman of having them not backed up by her, and things that they try to do out on the street to bring some sort of justice is, you know, some voided, null and void by her. And so there's been a running battle between the two of them, and I'm thinking more and more about that. And just, of course, this is, you know, try to supply motivation, because motivation is the key to a character's behavior. When you're writing fiction, you have to understand their motivation. And the motivation, probably, when I think about it, it makes sense. I'll let you, you know, feedback on it or debate it or whatever, reject it, is that he knew eventually he'd get stung by this woman, and if it was a possibility that she would pull this prank. And so he was going to go ahead and throw all the details out there into the court of public opinion. So, and it looks as if, and of course this thing is still going on, and really in many ways it's just in its infancy stage, he may have been the one who played the right card. And I'm going to go through some things that have developed here, and we'll talk about that. And if that's the case, then that police chief is pretty shrewd. If you want to interpret this as something that is in reaction to the shrewd publicity that the police chief said about the case, knowing all along that probably Fox would throw some sort of wrench in it, can be interpreted to have been heard by, if you will, the Illinois Prosecutors Bar Association, who's condemned this Cook County State Attorney Kim Foxx, and who called for the dismissal of the charges. Now, the statement, which is issued on behalf of 1,000 members, now that's quite a few members to have up against you, disputes Fox's claims that the case was handled in a typical fashion and that it was a deferred prosecution. And so here's the statement. It reads, in part, "The events of the past few days regarding the Cook County State Attorney's handling of the Jussie Smollett case is not condoned by the IFBA, nor is it representative of the honest, ethical work prosecutors provide to the citizens of the state of Illinois on a daily basis." Now that's pretty powerful. The manner in which this case was dismissed, and they're not mentioning any words here, the manner in which this case was dismissed was abnormal and unfamiliar to those who practice law in criminal courthouses across the state. Prosecutors, defense attorneys, and judges alike do not recognize the arrangement Mr. Smollett received. That's an interesting way to say that. Let me read that again. Prosecutors, defense attorneys, and judges alike. That means everybody involved in the judicial situation, excluding the law, police themselves. Prosecutors, defense attorneys, and judges alike do not recognize the arrangement Mr. Smollett received. Even more problematic, the state attorney and her representatives have fundamentally, boy, here's a big one here, misled the public on the law and circumstances surrounding the dismissal. And as I said yesterday, the state attorney actually kept the case within her office and thus never actually recused herself as a matter of law. So all that stuff about turning it over to the FBI was a ruse. It was one of those fake end runs. And the ball carrier went the opposite direction. So additionally, the Cook County State Attorney's Office falsely informed the public that the uncontested sealing of the criminal court case was mandatory under Illinois law. The state attorney not only declined to fight the sealing of this case in court, but then provided false information to the public regarding it. You know, that's all, if you listen to that, that's pretty straightforward, powerful stuff. Now, lastly, the state attorney, this is all in their statement, the state attorney has claimed this arrangement is, quote unquote, available to all defendants and, quote, not a new or unusual practice, end quote. So there has even been, according to the Illinois State Prosecutor Bar Association, there's even been an implication that it was done in accordance with a statutory diversion program. And then they conclude by saying these statements are plainly misleading and inaccurate. And the statement concludes by saying, through the repeated misleading and deceptive statements to the public on Illinois law and circumstances surrounding the Smollett dismissal, the state's attorney has failed in her most fundamental ethical obligations to the public. The IPBA condemns these actions. Now, this irregular arrangement was an affront to the prosecutors across the state. That's what this statement is about. The Chicago Police Department and the victims of hate crimes. And the people of the city of Chicago and Cook County. This is what is now, the battle lines have been drawn. So they are strongly encouraging the IPBA and members to the public to review the National District Attorneys Association statement on prosecutorial best practices in high-profile cases. And, you know, this, we're going to reiterate, this woman was elected in 2016 after this super PAC from Soros pumped in $408,000 in contributions to her campaign as he goes across the country. This is the deliberate plan by Soros. He picks progressive candidates for public prosecutorial offices and then pays handsomely to get them in office. And this has been a result. Soros, they've tracked this to find out when did this guy start dumping this money into these type of races. The eruption of the Black Lives Matter movement in 2014. That's all under Obama's watch. So the road to, as Michelle Malcolm said, the road to the crooked Obama, the crooked road to Obama, whatever it was she said in the National Review. It's just all, I don't think they're going to back off on this because there's too many people now who are affronted by her behavior, which is clearly out of line. So that is one newsworthy item I wanted to share with you. And another one, and all sorts of things are starting to, some of them I think will maybe come to fruition and some of them maybe won't. But there's an Illinois lawmaker who has introduced a bill, and I don't know if it'll get anywhere, but I thought I'd put this into the notes today for you students. He wants to kill tax credits for companies employing Jesse Smollett. Now, the left does this all the time. The left attacks your advertisers. That's one of the things they go after. That's their tactic. And so now on CNN, this Illinois state Representative Michael McCauley, who's from Chicago. He is going to introduce legislation that would end tax credits to businesses that employ Empire actor Jussie Smollett. If that gets through, and I have no idea if it will. I don't understand the politics of Illinois legislators that well yet, but it's pretty clear that this has irked them. And then they ask, do you agree with the president the FBI and DOJ need to review the case, which they are going to do now? And he kind of ducked that question, but anyway, he wanted to go through this and say, listen, the General Assembly, he says, gives a robust tax credit to any production company that plans on filming TV shows or movies. And so there you are. That's an enticement by the government to bring this is what Ocasio-Cortez complained about with Amazon. They were getting, I don't know, what was it, $3 billion or millions, I can't remember the number now, of tax credits to come to that part of New York. And she actually thought it was money lying around in a safe somewhere. Rather, she didn't really understand what a tax credit was. That means that, wouldn't have to pay those until you accrued that amount of money in taxes, you wouldn't have to pay your taxes. So you get a credit, just like you get a credit back from a charge you dispute on a credit card bill. So he says we'll just stop giving these tax, if he gets it through the legislature, and I don't know if he will, but we'll stop giving tax credits to anybody who wants to make a show that involves Smollett. And there's another approach to it. So he's really stirred up a hornet's nest. I don't know if I got to this yesterday, but what was the so-called community service that Jussie Smollett did? And that's come out also. And I think I could have covered it yesterday. I actually knew it yesterday. Jussie Smollett's community service, now this is what he's being given credit for, okay? And he's such a good boy. He's already gone out and picked up paper by the side of the road with a DOC sign on his back. No, he hasn't. I mean, that really is what people think of, many of us do anyway, when they think of community service. You go out and you do something for the community. I mean, you clean up the trash or you whatever. No. His community service was 18 hours with the Jesse Jackson organization, okay? He volunteered and got credit as being a good boy for Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Push Coalition on Saturday and Monday. Come on, don't be sighing like this, Jay. These are your people at your age group, man. Come on, you letting them get away.
I don't identify with this group.
So we've gone and looked at that, and Jussie Smollett has logged, I like that verb, logged a total of 18 hours of community service over 2 days. This is it. With Jesse Jackson's organization, the Rainbow Push Coalition. And supposedly that was enough to satisfy one Fox, the prosecutor, and let them say that, well, he's paid the community back. The Rainbow Push is a civil and human rights organization, and they said upon inquiry that was the first time they'd ever seen the lad. He volunteered for the first time Saturday, put in 8 hours from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and he completed, according to those anyway, testimony, another 10 hours on Monday. And what did his service include? All right, but it did not include picking up trash along the side of the road. It included stuffing membership envelopes. So get this now. Fox is a left-wing prosecutor put in business by a left-wing PAC, financed by a left-wing billionaire, and for community service, hands a left-wing activist over to a left-wing organization to stuff envelopes. Huh? He also apparently worked in the bookstore and peddled some merchandise. And that's it. He also works apparently with the music director on a plan to build a choir. Huh? Yes. Yes. Take this up with the Chicago Tribune and these people who trace this stuff down. The Chicago Tribune also published letters Tuesday, and get this now, from the Black AIDS Institute, Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Push Coalition, and the City Lights Orchestra detailing this actor's service. Okay? So Chicago is onto this, and the newspapers and the media are presenting it to the public. Of course, the news aggregates are picking it up. Breitbart and Drudge and these other people are all putting it together and looking and making it available. But you know, it's originating in the actual media services of the city. Now, the letter from the Rainbow Push Coalition said, quote, "We are grateful for the opportunity to work." Oh man, now listen, this gets deep. Are your feet up back there behind the wall behind me, Jay? Have you got your feet up?
Yeah.
Okay. We are grateful for the opportunity to work with such a talented, now we ain't done yet, talented and humble.
Oh my God.
Humble personality. Humble. Like me. Huh?
Yeah, those are quite similar.
Come on. I mean,
Except you're not gay, black, and full of yourself.
but I'm very humble. Huh? Now, the Black AIDS Institute and the City Lights Orchestra went so far as to detail Smollett's past work for the organization, but they didn't have any real documentation to back that up. Huh? Okay. I had to get that into the notes today, students. It just really. Now, the other thing that seems to be factoring into this, and I sort of covered it the other day, and I'm going to see if I can get back and do a little better job on it, although I got to admit I don't fully understand the dynamics of Illinois politics, is how this is involved in the mayor's race, which is apparently a real dogfight there. And, you know, there's going to be, a bunch of stuff that happens there that no one, I can think I got a theory. You get all this confusion going, you make Manuel. Oddly, Manuel was in the cahoots with Obama, so all of a sudden he's on the opposite side. But I did cover this, I think, that there's going to be an argument made about whether this is a whitewash of justice, is what Manuel called it. And then the other two candidates, of course, are black. Now, what are they claiming, Jay? Come on here and explain what they're, and show it. They're claiming, the liar for Smollett, and since this white-black thing is involved, has claimed, and this is just one of the things that the liars do, they create a straw character and let the people's imagination run with it. They say, oh golly, one of the things that could have scared Jussie is these guys could have been in whiteface. Isn't that right, Jay?
Yeah. In typical liaries actually, the lawyer says, so it is possible that one of the brothers has worn whiteface before, as illustrated in the picture, and that Smollett was just confused.
Oh, no, the guy, no, come on.
I mean, he's gay, so he could be confused.
So this guy could have approached him with a whiteface, right?
Right.
And that would have really tied in with the Trumpster and the hat I've got behind me, which is behind Big Mills right now. We'll show it to you in a minute. It doesn't get no better, man. It doesn't get no better. So the mayor's race will figure into this. They'll be slinging the race card all over the place there. And, just get ready for it. It's going to be one of the, it's good drama. Now, the FBI and the DOJ, according to Fox News, and I'll share this with you, are going to get involved. And this is Judge Napolitano's interpretation. I'm not all a big fan of Napolitano lately. He's been slamming the Trumpster, and anybody who slams the Trumpster had better have his act together, or I'm coming over the fence on you, man. But the FBI and the Justice Department investigation into the handling, this is Fox News, of Jussie Smollett's case is going to focus on the controversial decision to let him walk scot-free for an act of, and you're going to investigate to see if this was an act of corruption, and if so, was anybody's civil rights violated by it? And this is the analysis by Napolitano. He appeared on Fox and Friends, and this was after Trump called the case outrageous and an embarrassment to our nation. And so the question is going to be, was this an act of corruption on the part of the prosecutor? I don't want to be like Bug-Eye Schiff. Bug-Eye Schiff has already rushed to judgment, as you know, and we're trying to can him, and I think that's what should be done as the chair of that committee that he's using as a witch hunt tool. But here, Napolitano is more cautious. He doesn't come out and say it was corrupt. He says we need to investigate to find out if it indeed was corrupt, and I'll let you draw your conclusions like any reasonable, like the Illinois State Prosecutor's Bar has done. They think it's corrupt. So this office, of course, by now you know the jingle, approved the dismissal of charges that this guy faked a hate crime, and all the evidence, of course, is shown that he did. So this was how far did the corruption go, and then who engineered it, and what's going to be the consequences. So Fox said, and I don't trust her any farther than I could sling her. No one tried to intervene on Smollett's behalf, although that contradicts the documents that are actually available, and they are emails and text messages showing that she was contacted by people who were linked to Smollett, and who were linked to Chin, who was linked to Michelle Obama, who of course no doubt is linked to Barack Hussein Obama. So the case wasn't even given, it turns out, to Fox in the first place. It was given to a first assistant state attorney, Joseph Maggots. What's a good name? Maggots, but it's M-A-G-A-T-S. Maggots, I don't know. And he reports to Fox, but somehow it got passed to Fox. And so they need to investigate that and find out, well, how did that get passed from Maggot over to Fox? And, who engineered that? So that needs to be talked about. How did you get off the case? Who walked the case back? And also, are there any political figures now? Any political figures, and this is back to the mayor's race, this is back to the bunch of other left-wing activist behavior by all these people, which they have in common. Were there any political figures who have gained something in the wake of the charges against Smollett being dropped? And that's maybe going to be revealed in how it plays out in the mayor's race. Napolitano says that these are pieces of the puzzle right now that nobody can get the answer to, but it looks like you're going to now swoop in there with the FBI and DOJ. And now a lot of people, of course, are questioning the FBI and the DOJ, whether they can do anything objectively and without being corrupted. But it appears that what corrupted the DOJ and the FBI were the Strzok and Strzok and Gould and Frankenstein, Comey, and Lisa Page, that crowd. They're the ones who were corrupt inside it. I keep hearing from other FBI guys, oh, we're not like that. We wouldn't do the investigation. We didn't do it, this and that. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt right now that you had a corrupt cell inside the FBI that was, at the head of this a coup against a legally elected president.
Well, look at the other way.
Go ahead.
Guess who's gaining?
Let me hear it.
Trump is.
Well, yes, of course Trump is gaining, but they're going to they got to do damage control on that. I'm going to get to that in a minute, Jay. They're going to try to do a lot of damage control, but they haven't been able to do, you got a good point, Jay. They haven't been able to do much damage control on this because the evidence is so incontrovertible and it's out in the public view. And I go back to, I think, what was going to be the very shrewdest move made in this whole thing, and that was the police inspector going out in the very beginning, righteously indignant, laying out the whole case in great detail. And by the way, I think I read where it was about $130,000 that went into this, and they're asking that Smollett pay back the city cops for that. They went out and had to pay $130,000 by the time they did the investigation, only to have it thrown over the bridge there by Fox. So that's an interesting part of this. Now, there's something else that I hadn't thought of, but I should have thought of, because, and it's not a very big deal to most people, but it would be a deal to these guys because they were the ones who were the victims of it. And this is kind of interesting. John Nolte has noticed this. And the title of this is Jussie Smollett Throws Two Innocent Black Men to the Wolves. You know, I got to thinking about this, Jay. He did. I mean, you know, he orchestrated, choreographed, and paid for these guys to go act this out for him. And now to get his own butt out of trouble, and he gets a liar, and the liar gets Obama and all this other stuff. These dudes now are what? Walking around like they were, you know, involved with a serious crime, and, you know, they could have had substantial prison time, and, you know, heck, they went down there and told the grand jury, signed, sealed, and delivered sworn testimony. So they really are. I hadn't thought about this. In other words, to save his own, and this is the language, this is a family show, but I'll say it anyway since it's in the article, and to save his own sorry ass and career, Smollett was willing to allow two innocent black men to stand accused of a crime he knows they did not commit. There you are in a nutshell. I think this is interesting how this has affected the black community. You know, we've been talking about lawlessness in the black community on the Ward Scott Files for a long time. We've got plethora of examples here in this area. You know, the most probably well-known one right now is the Brazilian butt-lift bandit, who was given a purchase card and was a convicted felon in the stupid city of Gainesville, didn't even know it. And then you've got G.G. Simmons, who's on the commission, who has got a checkered past. And so we've been speculating that lawlessness in the black community doesn't mean a tinker's damn. In fact, if you ask about it, you'll be called a racist. Now, this is unfair to the good blacks. I've got many, many good black friends. I spent a lot of time at lunch yesterday with a couple guys. Our commonality is that through sports. I mean, we're associated with the same coaches, we associated with the same players, and you know, we have our customary kind of coaches meal on Thursday at various restaurants around town, and all the other guys, about I don't know, a dozen guys there, and they all left, and it came down to just me and my two black buddies talking for a long time, 45 minutes or so. I never sensed a bit, or have I ever sensed any racism among us. I mean, it just doesn't come up. It just doesn't work that way, you know? And yet, I was thinking about who drove the wedge between guys like me and guys like them, who know each other, who've been in athletics with each other, who came from the South together. I've known them since they were kids. Who drove this wedge into this situation? And I'm going to use a term that is very familiar to us Southerners. It is the Yankees. The white progressive liberals drove the wedge for their own personal gain politically between guys like me and guys like them, who are good friends. Hey, listen, if I got a call right now from them and I need you, I'd be there in a heartbeat. You might even see me take my headphones off and walk off the stage here. I mean, that's the way I feel about these kind of situations. And to have a wedge driven in there consistently, and now, who is driving the wedge here? Who is the ultimate financier of this? It is Soros, if you take it all the way back to the yellow brick road. Jay, you take it back to the guy who pumped $408,000 into this campaign simply to disrupt racial relationships for the political advantage of the progressive left activists at the sake of humanity between and among us. That's the way I see that. That's the bottom line of this, okay? I don't see it any other way. And I don't, a lot of things don't anger me because I've been around so much stupidity, but it keeps me coming back to the show to talk about this with people, and hopefully you share these comments. You can share them all over the place. I don't mind. Hey, I'm the most transparent person you ever bumped up against. This show goes everywhere, all over the world. We've got it archived out at wardscottfiles.tv. You can see it 24/7. I'm responsible for every thought and every word. I don't blame anybody else for anything I said. And I really have given this a lot of thought, especially in the last 24 hours. So I really think that this has been a very selfish move, primarily by white people. Now, what kind of black people are vulnerable to this? This is going to maybe surprise you. Black people are the black people who are vulnerable to the treatment that the white progressive give them are not from the South. Because the South, we live side by side, black and white. It's from the North. Northern blacks are susceptible to this because of the economic segregation in the North. The economic segregation. So that's where you can exploit a black person because they don't have any memory of ever. Let me tell you one of my memories. It's one of my, it is in my imagination right now. The first Easter ceremony I ever went to was when my father was in Louisiana, back up in the woods after the war, building locks on the Pearl River. So we were pretty far back in the rural area, okay? And there were black folks all around us. I've seen black folks in the cotton fields picking cotton. I mean, I'm talking now, circa 1947, 48, okay? My first memory of going to church on Easter is with the black kids, holding the hand of a black lady who helped us, with our domestic situations and was as much a part of the family as I was. Walking down the dusty road, and the thing I remember telling my mother, that I was with little black children, how colorful their clothing was. And I said, my golly, I mean, they have yellow dresses and bright bows. And as a compliment, not as a cynicism, she said, yes, black people can wear those colors because the black people are black and that yellow stands out and it's magnificent. It's beautiful. That's my first memory of going to church on Easter Sunday, is with the black lady holding my hand and me holding the hands of the black children. I don't know where, that would not have happened in the North. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? That would not have been possible in the North. Absolutely, totally impossible. So I get so frustrated, and particularly these young whippersnappers around here who are, they think they know everything, and they get involved and they spit out dogma. And I covered this a little bit yesterday about how nobody, and this is getting more difficult to experience, by the way, what I experienced, because rural America is disappearing, and the whole thing about doing away with electoral college is to disenfranchise rural America. Don't think it's about anything else whatsoever. So I think one of the interesting things here is that you have a division among the blacks here, and it's out in public, and we'll see how it works out. And I don't know, it's going to be a new chapter every day as we come back on the Ward Scott Files, I suspect. Now, I want to switch over here to AOC, and I think we can play this, can we not, Jay? I'm going to give Jay a moment to find it, but at the Trumpsters meeting last night in Michigan, and I just want, this just does my heart so good. They had a comment about AOC at the Trump Michigan rally, as the Trumpster talked about how crazy the Green New Deal is, and how crazy the present vote was. It didn't have the nerve to make and it won't. And I'm going to tell you something else that Trumpster did when I get down to the Trumpster's accomplishments here in a minute, which is going to be a part of the show. Have you got it anywhere there, Jay? Okay, let her run, buddy.
But that's pretty scary. You guys are not very nice.
AOC sucks. I just wanted to get that into your notes, students. Oh yeah, she'll have a reply to it. You can't shut her up. She'll come back with a reply. But this prompted me to think about some of the things that don't get any press. And one of the things that Trump surprised him with last night, big time, and man, you talk about the environment. This is a significant thing because I have spent a lot of time on the Great Lakes. I've spent quite a bit of time in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. As a youngster, we went out and we portaged and stayed out in the woods with our canoes, our Gunner aluminum canoes. We went up into Canada. We went up into the up into the lakes. Man, it was a magnificent time. And I was 15, maybe 14, 15 years old, and we would go out on these 2-week explorations with our guides. It was YMCA camp, and go out on a 2-week exploration into the wilderness of Upper Peninsula in Canada. And I can remember being out there where the only thing we saw were deer flies. I mean, my golly, those deer flies were as big as your hand. And I remember us trying to fight the deer flies all the time. But we camped out, cooked our own food, Mackinac Straits, the whole bit. So I know what that area is. And Trump is promised last night $300 million for Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. Now I'm going to tell you that is a tangible environmental act. It's not one of these dream deals that the city slicking kid who came from bartending to Congress, what a meteoric rise that is, or fall. She probably was a better bartender than a Congress person. But he's going to take care of those Great Lakes, and it's going to be called the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. And they haven't been able to get it done. Nobody else has ever been able to get it done. It's been languishing in the Office of Management and Budget for a long time. And, the Trumpster's done a couple of things that surprised people. He heard the hue and cry about the Special Olympics, and he overrode the ballot, the red line budget people, and said, no, we're putting that money, even though the Special Olympics is largely financed by charitable groups, the government still kicks in. And he says, no, I'm going to override that. We're going to give money to the Special Olympics. We're going to kick that money in. Now, you watch that. That won't get a lot of press, but that's a biggie. Two things here: restoring money to the Special Olympics and, of course, the Great Lakes restoration. The other things that are going on that are kind of very helpful right now for the Trumpster is, this is according to Hill, it's covered this, is that, you may already know this, that Rand Paul has blocked a resolution calling for the Ghouls report release. You see, the Democrats, as you know, are so disheveled right now and have the fantods and the vapors and everything else that they just can't take a good breath. They can't inhale very deeply, and they've got the chills and everything else because, the doggone Ghouls report just didn't come out the way they were betting on it to come out, and all the media was saying it was going to come out. And so they've got to go out, and you can't do anything else because, remember, you believe what you want to believe. So without any contradictory evidence to anything that's being said, they invent it, and in their heads, well, of course, we won't. What they want to do when they get the report. So get ready for this because they will eventually get the report, and Trump's not against that. They will go through that thing. I will probably have, I don't know how many shows out of that, Jay, probably 50 shows as we go in and talk about how these people are pouring through the pages, looking for anything they can set up doubt about and create turmoil. And the only reason they want to do that is to try to influence the voters.
Well, we did find collusion.
Oh, you did? What'd you find?
Yeah, we found that Putin colluded with Russia.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Yeah, we got to go after Putin now.
But Paul has blocked this, and he's right now. That's one thing that's going on. All it takes is one senator to block something, and it gets done. So I wanted to keep you on that. I wanted also just health care is up in the ever since McCain betrayed the Republican Party and voted not to repeal the Obamacare, which is the biggest lie ever perpetrated on the United States population. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. And many people who had good health care things were forced out of them. And the whole idea of the thing is it was going to be financed by the young people, and the young people never signed up because they don't need it. They're not sick, so you couldn't sell that on them. So the whole idea has kind of been lying around there inefficiently happening. And to be sure, some people do have insurance because of it, but there's a better plan than that. And Trump has said we're going to become known as the party of health care. So you're going to hear a lot of propaganda from the left that that's not the case. But there are already some accomplishments that Trump can point to. One of the things he's done is he's lowered the premiums after the Obama administration oversaw this massive double and triple digit annual increase in the price of Obamacare. The Trump administration has stabilized the prices and have decreased the prices for many plans, contrary to what a lot of people will tell you. And short-term plans, Obamacare eliminated many cheap, bare-bones, short-term health care insurance plans, which were favored by the younger people. And it forced, as I was saying a moment ago, the younger people to pay huge premiums for coverage they did not need. And some of these plans are 80% cheaper than the cheapest Obamacare plan. Now, Trump has signed an executive order and promulgated new rules that expand the length of these plans from 3 to 12 months and allow them to be renewed for up to 3 years. He's also put an end to the individual mandate. The president's tax cuts, signaled into law in 2017, eliminated the requirement to purchase insurance, which was the most constitutionally objectionable part of Obamacare. So that change has saved individuals and families hundreds of dollars per year in IRS fines. And it's not caused the system to collapse. Group health care plans across state lines. That's something that we've been wanting for a long time, group health care plans across state lines. Choices for veterans. Now I was talking to a man whom I know very well. He used to be very high up in the VA administration, and now there was bipartisan support for this, and Trump spearheaded it, that they have kind of vouchers that they can go somewhere else. They don't have to go if they can't get into the VA system. He signed a Right to Try Act. Now, this hasn't been very well publicized, but in May 2018, he signed the Right to Try Act, which allows patients in desperate need to try new experimental drugs that had not yet been approved by the regulators. Heretofore, people had to go all over the world to find this drug and try it. So Trump is trying to deal with that. Drug price information, he's been really working away at lowering the price of drugs. So that's just some of the things he's done. I mean, he's not getting credit. Phil Kerpen, who was on the air with us, who runs the American Commitment in Research Tank in D.C., was very high on Trump for having dealt with the very complicated issue of the drug and prescription drugs and the cost of them. But they keep picking away at Trump. I thought this was interesting. You may have heard this or may not have, but they are going back and this is what this whole New York thing is all about. If we can get back into the state and get Trump rested up there, why he can't be pardoned because it's not a federal thing, and we're going to go back and turn over every leaf we can turn over. And they have been looking at the House Oversight and Reform Committee. I thought this was so odd, but it makes sense. This is Cummings and this crowd who are beset on doing something. They requested financial documents on President Donald Trump's bid to purchase the Buffalo Bills in 2014. Huh? 2014. And this is all part, of course, according to Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan, this is all part of a larger probe into the president's previous business dealings. So they're looking for 10 years of financial records. They're going to pour through that, even though this has nothing to do with anything he did while he was president. And, you know, you could do this to anybody. And, you know, this is what is, well, in a way, this is probably good. Maybe we'll get this kind of behavior out in the open. And, you know, the problem is, you know, Politico is reporting this. The problem, and Politico is pretty doggone anti-Trump. But the problem is, the press will just, I mean, they're not going to let you know this if they can help it. You have to dig around and find this stuff. So this is all part of this push to try to find something, since nothing else is working for them. And Cummings, of course, is the culprit in this. And he's complaining that Meadows and Jordan complain about everything he does. And then he, of course, this is their refrain, oh, we're just seeking the truth. We're just seeking the truth. Let me get this straight. You want to go back to 2014 to his business dealings with the Buffalo Bills, which he did not buy, and you're going to, what truth are you going to find? What truth are you looking for? What they're looking for, the only thing they can be looking for, is a high crime or misdemeanor.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the
Yes,
truth.
yes.
You can't handle the truth.
Cumming, he says he wants the truth. That guy doesn't want the truth. You know, they should have put him out to pasture a long, long time ago. The guy is just really marginal. He's low IQ. Low IQ applies to a lot of them. Bug Eyes, you know, is trying to get Bug Eyes to do what? To recuse himself. Bug Eyes should have recused himself a long time ago. He is so biased. Let me tell you something. Back to the court of law with the liars. First thing your defense attorney does is challenge the potential jury pool to find out if they're biased. And if they're biased and you can get it out of them with the right questions, you kick them off the jury pool because they've already made up their mind about you, even though there hasn't been a trial. I mean, that's standard courtroom procedure. Now, there's ways around it, of course. Johnny Cochran and those guys hired a PhD psychologist lady to analyze jurors to see quietly on the QT who might be favorable or inclined to find sympathy with O.J. Simpson. I don't know if you know this or not, but what the PhD psychologist, who was a blonde woman, found for Johnny Cochran and them, was quite a few black women who had crushes on O.J. Simpson and who thought the white woman had it coming. I kid you not. I kid you not. I kid you not. I mean, the psychologist was able to ask these questions very deftly and shrewdly to then give a report to the people who hired her, who was O.J.'s defense team, that we're picking this black lady and picking that black lady because, well, we can tell, you know, and this is going to play in your favor. So things can be done, you know. And look at, you got Bug Eyes up there again. Good golly, Miss Molly. Of course, the Trumpster has adopted Rush Limbaugh's nickname for Bug Eyes, and that is Pencil Neck. And the Trumpster has gone ahead and used it. Limbaugh was the first one to use it, but I think Bug Eyes is, you know, more indicative of his insanity, if you will. Pencil Neck doesn't necessarily make you nuts, but those eyes do. I mean, there's. Now, meanwhile, here's another thing that you probably won't get much press about. The judge has tossed a lawsuit against the Trump travel ban. Do you remember all this? The progressive left went shopping for a judge who would put the quietus on the travel ban that the Trumpster came up with, and now a federal judge has tossed out one of the remaining challenges. This is from Steve Dinan in the Washington Times. to President Trump's travel ban policy. This happened Wednesday, ruling that the government had the power to refuse visas for people under the affected countries. Huh? He also ruled, the judge, Brian Cogan, that while there is such a thing as a right to familial association, it only applies to people legally in the U.S. If you're illegally, this is a biggie, if you're illegally in the U.S., you don't automatically get rights that are the same as the legals do. That's like letting somebody come to class who didn't pay for the class. You did that?
I'll just go in and sit in classes for fun.
Yeah, but you're not trying to get credit for it.
That's true.
Yeah. See, this is different, Jay. Pay attention to me. I'm trying to help you, lad. These people are trying to get the same credit. I've done what you did a lot. I mean, I sat in classes and you know, because I liked the professor and I just wanted to hear what was going on. And I couldn't get the thing scheduled, and so I went and they allowed me to sit in. So that was fine. But this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about giving the same credit to those who paid for the course to those who didn't pay for the course. And that's what they're trying to do with this immigrant thing, is give credit to people who didn't pay for the course and give the same credit to those people and all the rights thereof and privileges thereof as the ones who did pay for the course. I mean, it's so blatantly apparent to someone with a high IQ like yours truly that I don't even have to ponder it. I mean, it's very simple to see. Now, meanwhile, Bug Eyes could claim he has a high IQ because he keeps saying, oh, there's just evidence everywhere you look of collusion. Oh, when they were in Trump Tower, why they were playing grab ass there, right, Jay? You know, my favorite term? Yeah, they were playing grab ass there, and they were all, the Russians and the Americans, and they were all playing grab ass, and they were all, you know, playing to each other's needs there, and, you know, this and that. That's what that was. I wasn't there, by the way. I wasn't there, and I really haven't had anybody in a sworn testimony who was there say that was what was going on. But I know that was what was going on, you know.
Yes.
I
In
know
Moscow,
that was.
we played grab ass all day.
Oh, played all day, yeah. And so he knows, boy, oh, he knows. He knows somebody at a grab ass session when he sees it, right? I apologize to the family people right now listening about. That's a term we country boys use in the locker room, whatnot. So, I mean, I'm just going through a list of things that, of course, you realize that Obamacare has been found to be unconstitutional, and that's a biggie. And now they're going to, that will become an issue that they'll kick around and kick around and kick around. And Trump has said we're going to come up with a better plan, and I think he should get to work right away on that to disarm any criticism about Obamacare being unconstitutional. And the reason it's unconstitutional is it forces you to do something that you don't have to do. In other words, it's like forcing you to buy a Ford over a Chevrolet. You follow my little analogy? If you students will learn to use analogies, you can understand the world a lot better, the complicated world. Now, the Department of Justice has informed a federal appeals court. Golly, I'd stirred the opinion. Somebody out there just texted me, not on the screen here, Jay, but that grab-assing excited him. I know this guy probably does. Oh, man. Well, some people just can't contain themselves, you know.
We don't know anything about that.
We don't know anything about that. We're not going to go. We're not going to go down that road. Imagine me right in the middle of the show getting a message from a listener out there says, "Oh, grab ass excites me."
It's like when that woman was talking to you and saying you're hot.
Yeah, it's like when we had to block that woman who couldn't control herself. She kept posting during the show that I was hot.
We do not endorse any grab-assery.
Yeah, we're not for that. It's a family show, as I keep saying. It is a family show. So the individual mandate is what makes the whole thing unconstitutional. Now let's get serious, Jay. Don't cutting up in class. No cutting up in class. So, so when So anyway, that's what's this making you do something you don't want to do, like buy a Ford over a Chevy. That has been decided that makes the whole Obamacare thing. That was always, and that whole deal, the ACA, was passed in 2010 with a Democrat-controlled Congress, and there wasn't a single Republican who voted for it. And this is the way in which things got done back then, and that can happen. I mean, it can. I don't know if I have time to go into this, but it's scary. I think I'll probably go into it on Monday. How the Democrats plan to lock up the 2020. It's a pretty interesting Wall Street Journal conversation there, and I got it over here in the Midnight Auto Yard, but I just haven't been able to get to it. Now, we'll do it Monday. There's a couple other things, of course. Don't forget this, students. Don't forget this. Now, here, Bug Eyes obviously is nuts as far as I'm concerned, and I know somebody crazy when I see him. But that was used against the Trumpster, the 25th Amendment. Do you remember that, Jay? I mean, yes, they tried to roll out the 25th Amendment on the dude, don't you? McCabe did. Yeah, and they had that all set up, and they tried to go in and wire him and catch him and, doing something, and they could then say, see, the guy's crazy, and see, he's nuts. And then, you got, what's-her-face's husband. By the way, he's shut up here lately. I think she went home and told him, you're going to hit the road, Jack. You keep that crap up. Because he's shut up lately. He was out there without a license to practice psychology, telling everybody the Trumpster was nuts and putting his wife in a terrible position. And, back in a family situation, the woman's always right. You just have to start from that premise. And for that dude to go out publicly and try to make a fool of his wife, I knew right away he was in over his head. All she has, and no woman would never be found without sympathy in that situation by a bully male like that out there running his mouth about her work when it's none of his purview to do it. I knew he couldn't win that. We're talking about the lady who is Trump's blonde assistant. Yes, what's her name? Help me out with that. Huh? Yeah, be good. Do something useful back there, man. Get that.
I'm sorry, Ward.
But you know who I'm talking about. Yeah, and I'm losing it. I got all these names to remember. I hardly remember my own. So that lady, with the husband who was out running his yak about how crazy Trump is, we ought to get the 25th Amendment in there. That's another way in which he's been attacked, the Trumpster. And now what they're doing is they're going after the summary criticism. Let me tell you, in advanced composition, put a picture up there, man. Yeah, in advanced composition, the first exercise you have the students perform is to write a summary. And summaries are okay as long as that which you are summarizing has, there she is, yeah, there she is, Kellyanne Conway. As long as that which you're summarizing is broken into sections and has topic sections and all that, which I'm sure this thing does, you then take those topic sections and those, if you know anything about composition, without a topic sentence you can't have order in the paragraph, and without a thesis you can't have topic sentences. So you take the thesis and you take the topic sentences and you put those together in a form and that becomes a summary. Because what is the expansion of that, how you make the whole essay, is you take each topic sentence and that becomes a section, and then you put in the examples. But the topic sentence can't exist without the examples. So if you're teaching composition, there's a topic sentence, then there are examples, then there's a closure. There's a conclusion to each section, and that conclusion doesn't bring up anything that wasn't in the body, that wasn't prepared for by the beginning. This is really simple stuff. And if I were up there refuting old twitching Pelosi, I would just simply say, ma'am, do you understand how summaries are written? And then she'd say no. I mean, I know she'd say no. Very few people do, except people like me who are incredibly bright and well-disciplined and have done it over and over again. So, and I used to be mild about saying those sort of things, but now I say, what the heck? I mean, it's true. So, that's the way you write them. And you can't write them if they're disorganized. Now, if the original thing is disorganized, then you have to go through and organize. I had a guy give me a book. He wanted me to write his book for him. And you know, it was on tennis, you know. And he'd actually been one of my students. And way back when, he wanted me to write the book. I couldn't write the book. I mean, what he wanted me to do was organize the book. Well, I couldn't organize disorder to the extent that it was disorder. I said, bring it back and cut this, cut that, cut this, and focus on this. He couldn't do it. So it never got done. You know, I wasn't going to sit down and do all that. Well, there we are. And I can't even get to everything I got to get to. I got a whole bunch of stuff here to get to. I mean, I just can't get to it all. So that's the way it is. It's better to have too much than too little. Listen, have a great weekend. Jay, thanks for helping out. Thanks to all our sponsors. They make this show possible. And you go down and patronize them now. Don't mess around with me. You know, call up my good buddy, the lawyer up there in High Springs. He'll get you out of trouble. Go to Eat Big Mills. Go to Gators Dockside. Go around to these people. Buy your vehicle from Davis. Come on now. Let's get on the program here. Warthog Command Center out.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
Do you want to put your business in front of 10,000 new customers? Visit wardscottfiles.tv today for more information on our advertising opportunities.